Welcome back to The Inner Life. I'm Chuck Neff, along with our producer, Tim Mersch, Sarah Tafoya answering your phone calls, and our spiritual director, Father Glen Sedano. Father Glen, a priest with the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, and we're talking today about spiritual resolutions as we begin 2018. And as you think about your journey of faith, your spiritual resolutions, and I think maybe as we've been talking about, the real question here is, where is God calling you to change and take, as Father Glen was saying, quoting Father Benedict Rochelle, take the next good step. What is that for you? Toll free if you'd like to join us, 888-914-9149, our email address, innerlife@relevantradio.com. That's such a great insight for us, Father Glen. Just take the next good step. Father Benedict Rochelle, what great insight and wisdom for us. And it seems like it's so simple just to take that good next step. But I wonder sometimes, is there a danger that we want to take a big good step and we overreach, and there's a danger that we can try to do too much too soon?
Well, especially, I believe, when it comes to resolutions, sometimes, they sometimes, when we eat, so the eyes are bigger than the stomach, so, a person sort of say, well, okay, I'm going to, I'm going to resolve to say the full rosary every day, and they're not doing the rosary at all. So that doesn't make sense, and it's just not going to work. There's a general principle, and we see it in biology and in nature. Things start small, and they grow when they're nourished, and then they bear fruit at a particular time. So everything, including ourselves, everything starts small, and then it grows. So it's better to start something small. So even if you're starting a business, you don't plan the whole thing out, for what the business is going to be like for the next 20 years. No, you start small, and so it's common sense. But when it comes to religious things, sometimes we're not very sensible. So let's say someone's going to resolve to pray more, like I just said. Well, okay, we'll start small. Let's say, especially praying with the family, and I often tell this with couples. I ask the wife or the husband, do you pray with your spouse? Often enough, they say, well, we pray separate, or, but I said, no, do we pray? We pray with the kids. I said, no. Do you and your spouse pray together? No. Okay. Do you see that this is an important thing? Is because your marriage is not just you and your spouse, but it's you, Christ, and your spouse. There's a sort of a trinity there. And so this completes the circuit. Okay. Do you think it's a good idea? Yes. Do you have 1 minute every day to pray with your spouse? Do you have that time? Yes, of course. Okay, just 1 minute. Okay, so make a decision for 1 minute to get together, hold hands. If you want to kneel down, fine. If you're too old, forget it. Mm-hmm. Hold hands and say an Our Father or a Hail Mary or Glory Be, or say a Hail Mary for each of the children, or for whatever intentions you have. 1 minute. Don't go beyond the minute. That's it. Maybe do that for the month. And then perhaps when you get the used to it, they say, you know what, a minute's too short. I can't get all the kids and all my petitions in. So then we'll both decide to go 2 minutes, but not three. Not three. Go 2. So for 1 minute to hold hands and stepping into a corner somewhere, and while everything is going around in the house, I think that we could have 1 minute, hold hands, and say a prayer, head bowed, say a prayer together. That's it. Well, that should not be the prayer for both of them. Meaning they should be having prayer on their own. My only point is to have a couple start praying together. You start small, is because prayer can be very threatening, because you're opening up your heart to a person, and even a husband and wife who bear their own bodies to one another have difficulty in bearing their souls to one another, because the soul is very, very. The word intimate, it comes from timor in Latin, which means fear. So an intimate moment, there's something fearful about it. So it is true that people are afraid to open themselves up and pray in front of another person. Okay, we all understand that. The good reason, that's a better reason to start small. So 1 minute, hold hands, bow your heads, say a prayer, and then perhaps next month, maybe next year, it'll grow.
And see what happens, Father Glen Sedano, our spiritual director, let's head to the phones. As we're talking today about spiritual resolutions for the new year, we're going to start in Newark, New Jersey. Maria listening on 1430 AM. Hi, Maria. Good to have you on the program today.
Well, Happy New Year and Merry Christmas and all the holidays. My resolution is to be quiet, pray more, and go by the Blessed Sacrament. I try everything in my life to give up, to not that, and nothing works. So I'm asking the Lord to please everything.
Yeah, Maria, we're having a little bit of trouble with your connection here. Apologies for that. I don't know if that's our side or your side, but I don't know if you heard that, Father Glen, but resolving to be...
I heard Maria say about spending more time in silence before the Blessed Sacrament.
There you go.
Is that what she said?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a major resolution. But Chuck, even going back to what we said, now a person could sort of say, well, I'm going to do that every day. Now, if a person can do that every day, spend a little time before the Blessed Sacrament, wonderful. Do that. This is why I often say that a person that lives close to the church, if you have a church that you live across the street, this has to be a very good reason why you're not even stopping by to make a visit to the Blessed Sacrament. Understanding that the church is unlocked and open. But my point being is that even spending time before the Blessed Sacrament, which Maria said, that was a wonderful suggestion. But let's say a person cannot get to the Blessed Sacrament. Can they still find time to sit down and to have some quiet time and put themselves before the closest tabernacle, maybe a mile away? But to imagine, even in their imagination, of their tabernacle of their parish church. So you have that in your mind. And now, this is, of course, not replacing actually going to the Blessed Sacrament, but my point is that sometimes people are either elderly, or they're infirmed, or they're in a particular place where it's not convenient to spend time before the Blessed Sacrament. Well, I think most of our listeners have heard of a spiritual communion, where you say a prayer in which you're receiving, quote-unquote, the sacrament in a spiritual way, even though you can't get to Mass. So, too, we can adore the Lord before, in our imagination, we picture the monstrance, and we have a time of quiet adoration. So Maria's suggestion is really good, but if Maria lives near a church, I hope that she's able to get there daily. But if she does not, if it's very inconvenient for her, at least she could get there whenever she can. But more than being in the physical presence, if she cannot be there, at least being in the presence of the Lord, who actually is always present to us in our soul.
Maria, thanks for the phone call. Sorry about the connection issues. And just another minute or so before we hit the bottom of the hour. So everybody on the phone, stay with us. We'll get to you after the break. But Father Glen, for somebody in our audience today who's saying, oh gosh, I don't know what to do, is this a time just to sit down and ask the Lord, what are you calling me to? What should I be doing? What is that next good step for me?
Well, you might even ask someone who you're close with if they have any ideas, because you share ideas. And let's say there's someone in the parish or someone that you simply just that they take their faith seriously, and they will even understand what you're talking about. But you sort of say, listen, it's the beginning of the new year. I'm thinking of doing something. Are you doing anything? And curiously enough, people may want to do things together. When you have another person like a buddy, a prayer partner, this is a wonderful thing, because you sort of keep each other in check in some way. So I know people that pray with a friend or family member the rosary on the phone every day, on the phone.
Father Glen, we've got to take a break, so let's do that. We'll get to some more phone calls when we come right back. Stay with us. More of The Inner Life coming up.